This video is so packed with the latest information regarding the Epstein files, you are not going to want to look away. We have 10 topics that we're diving into, starting with President Clinton, or former President Clinton, his day in court.
And the president went on to say that the president, Trump, has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved, and he meant with Epstein. So I know there's a lot of curiosity about President Trump. I thought that was an interesting thing that President Clinton said. So
while Clinton was on the stand, he said he knew nothing of President Trump actually having interactions or engagements with Epstein. That's interesting. I mean, we know that there was a friendship there. We've seen that. We've broken that down before. But that was the statement that was made, and that was shared by Fox News. But there's another whole side of the coin that we need to take a look at regarding who was actually convicted of things.
I want to be clear at the outset that President Clinton, as of today, has not been accused of a crime. There are not public files available that accuse him of a crime.
Right. I mean, now we've seen images of him with young girls. We haven't seen anything of wrongdoing besides being in these pictures, so it's not enough to convict him of a crime. That is a fact. Now, did crimes probably happen, but the evidence isn't there yet? I believe that they have. But as of right now, he hasn't been convicted. That's true.
Whereas there are publicly available documents that do allege a crime of President Trump. But it is very well established that President Clinton had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and we are treating this investigation extraordinarily seriously. And when you see the recorded deposition, you will see that we asked all of the hard questions, centering the survivors, making sure that we get to the bottom of where there are discrepancies in the record, and understanding how not only the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein committed could go on, but why there was a culture that surrounded him wherein the rich and powerful turned a blind eye.
Now, I think this is actually really important and really good. Whether they are Democrats, Republicans, which they are Democrats, it's nice that they're still going to grill a Democratic Party member that is being accused of these crimes so that they can get to the bottom of it. Again, I've said this time and time again, this is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is about people that have commit crimes or allegedly commit crimes, which, as they just stated in that Trump has been accused in written reports for doing many different crimes. Bill Clinton, I don't believe at this point has. Although, in my personal opinion, they probably were both in the wrong at some point regarding anything Epstein. Now, this is not only about Clinton and about Trump. It's about all the other people that are part of all of these crimes in the Epstein files as well. And we see right here, Representative Luna for Bill Clinton is believing that Epstein was running an intelligence gathering operation, and she calls out quite a few names inside of this video right here that I'm about to share that are all females that were involved in bringing in these young girls.
That Jeffrey Epstein was running an intelligence gathering operation. In my professional opinion, I do believe it was a honeypot operation. And I do believe that there's a list of individuals who did engage in trafficking, were given these plea deals, and I'm going to name those individuals right now. The first one would be Leslie Groff. The second one, Sarah Kellen. The third one, Nadia Markova. And the fourth one, Adriana Ross. All of these women engaged in the trafficking of minors as adults. They were working and complicit with Jeffrey Epstein's operation. And in my opinion, they are not to be given victim status because they did partake in harming young girls. I remember seeing in some of the files, some of these girls were, as young as 10, 11 years old and older. And so obviously we have a lot of work to do, but I did want to come and give an update.
Now, notice it was stated that these women that were named were adults that were bringing in younger children. We do know that there were young girls bringing in other young girls and being paid for bringing new girls to Epstein, but they were minors at the time as well. These were people that were not minors. They were adults and bringing in young children as young as 10 years old. Now, a new precedent has apparently been set as well that's going to require President Trump, even though he is the president, have to testify in court himself on the Epstein files. It states, "We had the Trump rule. Presidents don't have to comply with subpoenas. Now we have the Clinton rule. Presidents and their families testify when Congress issues one."
A new precedent has been set in America today. Before this, we had the Trump rule. Trump defied, as all of you know, a congressional subpoena with the January 6th committee. He said presidents don't have to testify. Now we have the Clinton rule, which is that presidents and their families have to testify when Congress issues a subpoena. And that means that Donald Trump needs to come before our committee and explain what he knew about Epstein and explain why we have not had a full release of the documents. We also need other people, part of the Epstein class, to come before this committee. If President Clinton can answer questions, many others need to as well.
And honestly, I think this is a good thing. I do not believe that just because someone is in a position of power, they should be exonerated from having to follow the laws that every other common man has to follow. So I think that anyone that would be subpoenaed should have to go in front of the court and tell their story, President Trump included. Now, this was posted by the Joe Rogan podcast, and I found it quite interesting. It states, "There's 3 people mentioned most in the Epstein files: Epstein, Maxwell, and Trump, but we're deposing Hillary Clinton? ? Let's listen in.
Well, as my friend Joanne Carducci said, there's 3 people mentioned most in the Epstein files, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Donald Trump. One of them is in prison, one of them died in prison, and one of them is the president of the United States, but we're deposing Hillary Clinton. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, the government has repeatedly lied about these files. They refuse to release the full files. Then they're hiding the documents, and now they're pointing allegations everywhere except at the president, who is in the files the very most. And this is a huge distraction to use Hillary Clinton, the vicious, evil Hillary Clinton, as a distraction from what they've actually done.
So it does seem like there's deflection going on and trying to take eyes off of certain people and put them on to others. I do believe that the Clintons should have appeared in court because there was connection there with Epstein that we needed answers from. But there are others as well, and those people, those others, are now at some point going to have to take the stand and share their stories as well. Now, apparently Trump thinks that Lutnick is an upstanding good guy.
Howard Lutnick. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Howard would go in and do whatever he has to say. He's a very innocent guy. He's doing a good job.
Now, also stated right here, a very innocent guy. Trump, his quote on Lutnick. It's also worth noting that Trump said that he didn't have any connection with Epstein and didn't know of all these terrible things that were going on. So how would he know if Lutnick was a part of it or not?
Had a falling out with Jeffrey Epstein in the first place. Another thing is that I saw about an hour ago, Donald Trump in a press conference said that Howard Lutnick is, quote, a very innocent guy. Donald Trump has asserted many times that he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes. If he doesn't know anything about Epstein's crimes, how can he know for sure that Howard Lutnick is, quote, a very innocent guy? We have questions for him. And I think what today is showing and what yesterday is showing is, of course, no one's above the law. That includes the President of the United States. And my hope is that our Republican colleagues, as we walk out of here today and go back to D.C., will join us in making sure that we can hear from Howard Lutnick, from Pam Bondi, and from President Trump.
Now, I like that he said his colleagues. Obviously, they're Democrats, and he's calling the Republicans colleagues because together we should be working to make sure that the criminals in all of this Epstein case and files are taken down for their crimes, whether they are a Republican or a Democrat. And it seems that at least the Democrats that we were just hearing from now believe that. I don't think that everyone across the board believes the same, though. Now, Chuck Schumer had something to say regarding a massive cover-up.
Let me be blunt. There's a massive cover-up going on in the Justice Department to protect Donald Trump and people associated with Jeffrey Epstein. As we expected, Trump, Bondi, and their minions have played games with the release of these files. They release some documents that they want to release and continue to hide others. The American people see right through it, and they're all asking the obvious question, what is Bondi trying to hide? President Trump, what are you trying to hide?
And I think we all know that certain files are being released while others are being hidden, whether they include Trump or anyone else. There are files that are not being released and people that are being protected. We have proof. 500 terabytes of the data was gone as a result of the intrusion. I was able to recover about 400 terabytes of the data, however. I was told to Google how to recover the data. No one else tried to help us. Around 3:30 p.m. or so, we located the log files and began combing through, which is when we noticed strange IP activity that took place yesterday from 2 IP addresses. The activity included combing through certain files pertaining to the Epstein investigation. Now, that was a statement that came through back in 2023, so nothing new, but even since then, 2 years ago, people have been tampering with the files. And now some new information regarding shuttle buses. I'm going to take you through this entire document. Newly discovered Epstein file alleges that Trump was having shuttle buses full of underage models sent to Mar-a-Lago for casting parties that were so disturbing that the girls quit modeling after one party. Buried in millions of Epstein files is an FBI tip report from an anonymous caller about a man named Michael Capone who would allegedly procure lots of young women for Trump's parties at Mar-a-Lago. The tip reads, "This is about the Jeffrey Epstein case. There's a man on Miami Beach by the name of Michael Capone who sent shuttle buses full of underage models to Mar-a-Lago, casting parties, they called them, during the time when Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were partying together there in the 1990s. You need to interview this man because more than a few of the girls quit modeling immediately after attending one of these parties." We have no idea whether or not the FBI ever followed up on this tip, but the Justice Department needs to immediately find this Michael Capone person and bring him in to testify before Congress. There are mountains of deeply disturbing allegations against the President of the United States, and justice demands be investigated. Reports like this one give a lot of credence to the idea that Donald Trump, jealous of Epstein's success, was trying to run his own trafficking ring out of Mar-a-Lago. Why else would you be hiring teenagers like Virginia to work at a spa and then have a falling out with your best friend because he, by Trump's own admission, tried to steal her away? We need to unredact and release all the files, find out what Trump is actually guilty of, and then charge him criminally for it, of course, if he is. There is too much smoke here for there to be no fire. What are your thoughts on everything that was released today and everything you just listened to inside of this video? And if you think that was interesting, make sure you check out what Hillary Clinton had to say yesterday.